All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kodash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today is July 1st, 2024, Monday, Missile Monday. And I have this article from the New York Times. And it says, Putin vows to make new nuclear missiles and to weigh placing them near NATO nations. So which, I thought this was, pretty interesting. I also have, another article, that I want to go into. I may make a video, or, Lord willing, I'll make a video on it, this week, about, physicists that are developing these weapons. But, as you can see, biblical prophecy is, still continuing to take place because, again, the first scripture that came to mind, or at least, the first chapter that came to mind was, Ezekiel 38. The Lord is putting that spirit, that old USSR spirit back on the Russians, that Cold War spirit that they were in, man, because they're ready to take down, the West. And the West being, part of the West, but, being America, But I'm not going to ramble too much, So I'm just going to go into this article. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. And it says, the announcement appeared to be the Russian leader's latest attempt to raise the stakes in his conflict with the West, coming less than 2 weeks after his visit to North Korea. And, you had that as well. President Vladimir Putin, he met with Kim Jong-un, and honestly, that's not good for America, because again, as we know, Kim Jong-un, he hates America, and he's ready to take this place down as well, So it says, President Vladimir V. Putin declared on Friday that Russia would produce new intermediate-range nuclear-capable missiles and then decide whether to deploy them within range of NATO nations in Europe and American allies in Asia. Mr. Putin's threat was vaguely worded. He said nothing about timetables for deploying the weapons, and by blaming the United States for bringing similar missiles into training exercises in Europe and Asia, he seemed to be signaling he was open to negotiations. But his time was critical because he made the announcement just as major elections were about to begin in Britain and France, and days ahead of the 75th anniversary NATO summit in Washington that starts on July 9th. And it appeared to be Mr. Putin's latest attempt to raise the stakes in his conflict with the West, coming less than 2 weeks after his visit to North Korea, rattled nerves in the United States and those of American allies in Asia. The United States pulled out of the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty in 2019 during the Trump administration, after years of American accusations that Russia was cheating on the record. The treaty had banned U.S. and Russian forces from having land-based cruise or ballistic missiles within ranges between 300 and 3,400 miles. It was one in a series of treaties. It was one in a series of treaty withdrawals that marked the end of more than a half century of traditional nuclear arms control, in which the key agreements were negotiated in Washington and Moscow. Only one such treaty is left, New START, which limits the intercontinental weapons each nation can hold, and expires in February 2026. Now again, As we know, 2025, we know we're still going to be here. But again, we'll see, how the rest of this year turns out, and, Lord willing, how 2025 turns out. But, again, these are just, these treaties. That's when that particular treaty expires in February of 2026, man. But, none of these treaties and, pacts will matter, because once it's time, for prophecy to be fulfilled, it's going to be fulfilled. No matter what, treaties or sanctions they have, none of it is going to matter. So continuing on, it says Mr. Putin could have announced plans to bolster his force of intermediate weapons at any point in the past 5 years, so his decision to do it now was notable. In the interim, the Pentagon has taken the first steps to deploy some weapons modified to an intermediate range in Asia, ultimately intended to counter a growing Chinese nuclear force, but the United States has not permanently redeployed any in Europe. In brief televised remarks in a video conference with his national security officials on Friday, Mr. Putin referred to some recent military exercises in Denmark and suggested that it was possible the United States was preparing to leave weapons there. We need to respond to this and decide on our further steps in this regard, Mr. Putin said. It appears that we need to begin producing these attack systems and then, based on the actual situation, decide on whether to deploy them to ensure our security if necessary. So, as we know, these weapons will be deployed, man. None of them are going to be spared, Says, but his motivation may simply be a reaction to a recent American move, or to a reaction to recent American moves in Ukraine. When President Biden lifted his prohibition on Ukraine's ability to fire American-supplied weapons into Russian territory, though he limited it to the area of Kharkiv, where Russia is firing weapons, Mr. Putin made clear there would be a response. During the Cold War, such missiles were a key part of the Soviet force, but in the early 1990s, the United States removed from Europe all of its intermediate range ground-based nuclear cruise missiles and ballistic missiles, and the Soviets eliminated their SS-20 missiles. These moves were considered major steps in reducing tensions. But a decade ago, Mr. Putin reversed Russia's move, deploying Iskander missiles to Kaliningrad, the Russian region closest to the Western European cities, which the Obama administration charged were in violation of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty. But President Barack Obama decided not to withdraw from the treaty, reasoning that would lift any obligations from Mr. Putin. President Donald J. Trump reversed that decision. The Pentagon used the withdrawal to plan for the development of weapons in the Pacific that would have been previously banned under the treaty. But when military exercises are held, they almost always invoke mock-ups, not real nuclear weapons. And yeah, I'll just read this, this pretty much the end of it. It says the threat to produce more nuclear capable missiles was also just the latest example of how Mr. Putin has tried to gain leverage in his war against Ukraine by invoking the power and reach of his nuclear arsenal. At the beginning of the invasion, he ordered weapons. He ordered weapons be put on a higher state of readiness. They apparently never were. In October 2022, the Biden administration intercepted messages suggesting that Russian generals were planning to detonate a battlefield nuclear weapon in Ukraine, possibly at a military base. That crisis eased without any nuclear use. So, as you can see, Russia is developing, more nuclear weapons. Really, there's an arms race going on, still. The main two countries that are in an arms race with each other is Russia and America, because these two, out of, the 9 nuclear armed nations, Russia has the most nuclear warheads between, America, because they both possess, 5,000 or so, nuclear weapons, but Russia has more between, the United States. And, it's only biblical prophecy, man. It's just showing you that we're getting closer and closer to this war, man. Closer and closer to the destruction of America. And, Lord willing, this man is going to be responsible, on a smaller scale, of course, for taking America down, But he's an Edomite. He's going to be destroyed as well. If he doesn't get destroyed, he's going to be taken into slavery, but he's going to be a slave anyway. But either way, man, this man could possibly be the reason that America gets taken down. So, take a good look at this face, man. You Americans, this man is about to bring doom and gloom to you. This man, along with the Korean guy, Kim Jong-un, he ain't playing with y'all, man. Y'all gonna keep thinking this is a game. This is very serious, man. These world leaders are ready to take America down, So, I'm only gonna bring out a couple scriptures, man, and that'll be it. Didn't want to make this one too long. So this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 54 and verse 16, and it says, Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and they bringeth forth an instrument for his work, and they have created the waster to destroy. And yes, man, that's how this war is going to be fought, with nuclear weapons. These nuclear missiles, man. The modern smith being, these scientists that are developing these weapons. And like I said, man, I have an article, that I came across that I want to go into, which I think will be interesting. But these scientists, are the modern smiths, man, because as we know, a blacksmith is one, who makes weapons of war. And that's what these scientists and physicists are doing, man. They're creating weapons of war, man, nuclear weapons, man. And that waster to destroy are the nuclear missiles, man. That's what these men are creating, and that's what Vladimir Putin is looking to do, is produce more, because he knows, man, that he's going to take this place down. So Slakia, try to go to the chapter, but this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 9 and verse 5. And it says, For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And yes, man, this is how this World War III is going to be fought, with nuclear capabilities, man. Now, you will have ground troops that will be over, in the region of the Middle East, or in the Middle East, Slakia, in the region of Saudi Arabia, somewhere over there. You will have troops fighting each other over there. But ultimately, this war is going to be fought with nuclear weapons, man. Because, traditional war, was fought, with hand-to-hand combat, a group of men on one side, a group of men on another side, and they're charging each other, in the center, with swords, spears, shields, bow and arrows, things of that sort. But this particular war is going to be fought with nuclear weapons, man. Weapons that can be shot from one continent to another, man. That's ultimately how World War III is going to be fought. That's that burning and fuel of fire, because that's what those missiles are going to do, man. They're going to burn this place, So I'm going to get the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38, verse 1. And it says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal." And, the chief prince, that's what Russia means in, the Hebrew, which how you would say it is Ra'ash Shar, because again, the apostles have went into it. That's, Russia is a Hebrew word, man. And it ties in with, Ezekiel 38, because Russia is the chief prince. Russia is, Gog. Magog just means, from Gog. So Gog from Gog, But that's what that word Russia means, in the Hebrew, chief prince, Verse 4, and it says, "And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords." So yeah, the Lord is putting that warlike mentality back on these Russians. And as you can see, Vladimir Putin, he's not effing around, man. He wants more nuclear weapons to be produced. And as you can see, the Russian Edomites are built way different than, American Edomites, man. Because you can see, the American Edomites, they're weak, they're feeble. Just like it says in Jeremiah 51, the mighty men of Babylon has become as women, mentally and physically have become like women, man, because a lot of these guys are physically weak, and they've, transformed, so meanwhile you have the weak American Edomite man, and you have the Russians, they're built different, man. These are a nation of people that literally wrestle bears for fun. They're built different. Those Russians are tough because, this war is Edomite on Edomite crime, but ultimately we know that, Russia is going to take America down, but Esau, Edom as a whole, his entire nation is going to be taken down and put into slavery, So verse 5, it says, "Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them." And Russia is going to be a guard unto all of its allies, man. It says Persia, which, modern day Persia is Iran, because they changed their name. We went over this, Sunday. I looked it up. Persia, they changed their name to Iran in 1935, which the Persians are, the Elamites, so-called Eastern Indians, and the Ethiopians, Ham, Libya, I think that might be Ishmael. If not, a brother can correct me. But, Russia's going to be a guard unto, all the UAE nations over there and certain Hamite nations, man, just whatever, countries and nations are allies with America, Slovakia, are whatever countries or nations are allies with Russia, Russia is going to be a guard unto them, as it says, man, Because again, ultimately, even America's allies are going to turn on her, and they're going to shoot their missiles over here as well, man, because, it's prophesied that this place would be taken down by fire, you know? So I'm going to get one more in there, and that'll be it. This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 6, and verse 22. And it says, "Thus saith the Lord, Behold, a people cometh from the north country being Russia, and a great nation shall be raised from the sides of the earth. They shall lay hold on bow and spear. They are cruel and have no mercy. Their voice roareth like the sea, and they ride upon horses, set in array as men war against thee, O daughter of Zion." So yeah, man, that great people that are coming out of the north country again, which is Russia, are those nuclear missiles which are coming to America, man. As it says, in the book of Revelation, 200,000, Revelation chapter 9 to be exact, 200,000, warheads are going to hit this place, man. America's going to be utterly desolate. Isaiah 34 gives a vivid description of how America, aka Babylon the Great, is going to look after this destruction takes place, man. So just, hey, brothers, sisters, we know what time it is, man. We have to wait on the Lord, and pray that, we're found worthy to escape this judgment, man, because this war is extremely serious, man. Because as we see, this destruction is primarily for the nation of Edom. That's who this destruction is for. You have, heathen nations that are over here in America. They're either, over here, whatever heathen nations are over here in America that don't leave before this war takes place, they're just over here just to die. They're collateral damage, as I say. They don't matter. And then you have 2/3 of our people that are going to get caught up in this war, for their wickedness, and they're going to be destroyed because they didn't repent, and turn back to the Lord, Excuse me, Slakia. So that's pretty much it. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the artists of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from. And I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till the next time I say Shalom.